Hey everyone, so I have been asked by many of you about the Hanging Coffins in Sagada, which is in the Philippines. So members of the Igorot tribe of Mountain Province in northern Philippines have long practiced this tradition of burying the deceased from their tribe in these coffins that are hung on the mountainside. I'm going to include some photos, but Google this. The pictures are crazy. Like, how is that even possible? So they're nailed or tied with rope to the side of the mountain, So it's an over 2,000-year-old tradition, and some of the coffins that are up there are over 100 years old, still there hanging intact. So if you visit, don't stand beneath them. Very dangerous. So the elderly would often carve their own coffins out of hollowed logs for this burial. And if they were too weak, then their family members would assist and they would make the coffins for their loved ones. The part of this whole thing, a little before the tradition. So roughguides.com has included a bunch on their website from interviewing someone from the tribe. So I'm going to just read to you part of that. The deceased are placed on a wooden death chair after they die, and the corpse is tied with rattan and vines and then covered with a blanket. After, they are faced to the main door of the house for people to pay their respects. The cadaver is smoked to prevent fast decomposition and as a means to conceal its rotting smell. The vigil is held for days, and then they're removed from the chair to be placed in their coffin. Now, these coffins are short. They're not like 6 foot long like caskets. They are much, much shorter. So before taken for burial, they're placed into the fetal position. So just like with birth, they put them back into the same position. The legs pushed up towards the chin, wrapped with blankets around and tied with rattan leaves. So a small group of men will chip holes into the side of the cliff with hammers to support the coffin. So part of this is also breaking bones to fit that deceased down into the shape to fit in the coffin. This is like I said, 2,000-year-old tradition. However, the newer generations are now moving away from that a bit. They're not as comfortable with breaking the bones. As tradition changes over time everywhere, they're starting to sometimes bury in the local cemeteries, even though the tradition was there because people wanted to be closer to those that have gone before, which is why they buried way up in the sky. And because there was a fear of being buried in the ground and water coming in and all these things. But the newer generations are going back to ground burial and not breaking of the bones because they're not as comfortable with it. So just like the Sagada hanging coffins, traditions change and some things just aren't like they used to be.